Hellish Quart has been out for almost 8 months now, yet I rarely see anyone talking about it. It has a loyal and hardcore fan base, and all the content I make about it on YouTube seems to be, well, somewhat popular, yet in terms of other creators, it seems to have missed a lot of people by. Is this down to the incredibly niche nature of the game? Yeah, probably, that makes sense. But hey, when something as unique as Hellish Quart comes out, I would have expected more of a fanfare. Yet, as 8 months have passed, it has been through so many different iterations with new characters, maps, and so much more behind the scenes tweaking to make it possibly the most realistic sword fighting simulator of all time. So this brings me on to the future, because we could be about to see Hellish Quart's biggest update yet. As a quick introduction to new viewers, Hellish Quart is a 17th century sword simulator. The game throws away all the normal ideals for a game, you know, story, massive multiplayer battles, and focuses entirely on the combat, with such intricate and meticulous designed physics that make Mount and Blade sword combat feel like what Fortnite is to, well, Squad. Don't get me wrong, does that make it entirely better? Not really. It all depends on the context. Hellish Quart's dueling-based physics would probably be terrible in a game like Mount and Blade, but for the gameplay loop that Hellish Quart has, it complements it perfectly, letting players find the best combo with each character, finding the pros and cons when it comes to weapons and how to deal with each opponent with flair and flurry. From large arcing swings wielding a longsword, to slight shoulder movements to get the best out of your rapier thrusts, every detail is paramount to your success as an accomplished fencer or duelist. It's great. The game does what it says on the tin, and for about $15 with more content coming every few weeks, you're gonna really get some fantastic play sessions if you like this kind of thing. However, for those that aren't really into hardcore realism and one-trick ponies, perhaps you're gonna want to skip it, as Hellish Quart does one thing, and one thing only, just to perfect it to the next level. But enough with that. Most of you probably know what Hellish Quart is about, and you might even play it yourself. But since I last made a video and properly had a go with the game, it's been a few months, and a lot can change in that time, especially with an incredibly active development team just like this one. Recently, we've had some customization menus added, currently for a few selected characters within the game, and granted, it may be one of the most bare customization menus that I've ever seen, with only a few select clothes and hats to try on, but hey, it's there, and is obviously being slowly added to for future and potentially vast amounts of aesthetic choices to your duelists. I really doubt much will come in terms of full weapon customizations other than just cosmetic stuff, as the title is so focused on physics and statistics, so being able to tamper with this could completely change the direction of the game itself. What's more is the addition of wooden weapon duels, swapping those dangerous metal swords with something more kid-friendly, solely made for practicing your combos and footwork without having the duel cut short by an accidental decapitation here or there. And this is cool, but I'm not entirely sure how useful it is, with an addition coming previously of blunt weapons, being able to choose how sharp your sword is in order to prolong engagement, kind of doing a similar thing to the addition of these wooden weapons, but hey, it may also help with the world building when it comes to the story mode, and yes, that is still coming. The game is set to have a full campaign with some special sneak peeks being teased very recently, which I'm going to get onto in a little bit, don't you worry. Finally though, there was a history buff mode added, yet once again this does pretty much the same thing as many of the other game modes. It's kind of an endless game of duel after duel with different maps and characters you can try out, but after each one a little snippet of history pops up, giving you some background to the weapons and culture at the time. It's kind of cool I guess, but isn't anything too different. But that's not what you're here for. You probably know all this, you probably played all this, you're looking for what's next. You want the real juice, you want to know what this game-changing update is that I've been harking on about. Well, as I mentioned, we're going to get some big updates on the single player. The first adventure is being crafted as we speak, with the storyline focusing on a character that we are yet to play as. It will take you through their life and, judging by many of the cutscenes that have been teased, meeting other characters that we've already seen, perhaps maybe not getting on so well with them. I am always interested to see how fighting games like this one approach campaigns, as the very static gameplay loop doesn't really offer itself all that much to storytelling. But in this case, 17th century fencers spitting in each other's drinks, flipping tables and throwing gauntlets down for a duel, what more could you really want? The single player will offer up new NPCs crafted to help tell the stories and take you along each character's background throughout the game. And speaking of new characters, the newest and upcoming fencer to join the fray is probably going to be the best yet. Father Zera, a drunk priest who wants nothing but peace in the world and will kill as many men, women and children as it takes to get it. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. You can be heading into a duel staggering blurry after a long night of drinking mead, ready to hack off someone's head with your longsword. There also looks to be a new map on its way, as some of these character gameplay snippets seem to be taking place on what looks to be Father Zera's chapel. Then, somehow after all this, the devs sat down and said, Hellish Quart is good, but but it just isn't realistic enough. So in this next weapons update, they're going to be implementing hybrid damage. This means that depending on which part of your weapon hits your opponent determines the damage output. For example, the edge closest to the sword hilt will do less damage to the edge closest to the point. For the length of the sword means more momentum is engaged in the hit at the point end of the weapon, and of course, well, the sharper bit's going to probably hurt a little bit more. In addition, missing attacks are going to be a big hit to your stamina, giving way more strategy to your strikes rather than just swinging for the fences. Yet, a successful attack, even one just hitting the enemy's own weapon, will not cost you any stamina, so it is paramount that you've calculated distances before attempting a strike. Not just because it leaves you wide open to enemy attacks, but also because the stamina hit is going to have a much bigger impact now, which makes sense, right? In the next update, as fencers use up more stamina, they get more tired. This is visibly shown by the stumbling and slower movements on screen, but will also have a massive effect on weapon damage, as the slower the attack, obviously, the less damage dealt. So keep fresh, make sure you aren't chaining too many attacks. This is also important to note, as too many chained attacks will also affect the damage. The second swing in a combo will do considerably less damage as the first, as less momentum will be behind it. Overall, it's clear this small development team behind Hellish Quart are so focused on getting the combat right. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Does this result in a less polished game as a whole? I mean, the UI for starters is letting it down considerably. It's obviously a placeholder, yet this is a paid experience at the end of the day. Yet even then, you might be saying, what does it matter? And you would be right, visually it doesn't really matter. But UI design is important, especially to user experience and enjoyability. It's really hard to navigate things like the customization menu with a controller just because of the way the UI is designed. And I might add, controller is the advised way to play, as mouse and keyboard is another level of difficulty, only really because the game was never really designed to be played that way, which again, for a PC only game, seems a bit like a design flaw to me. And I get it, me playing devil's advocate will annoy people because when a really cool niche game comes out like this one, it gains, as I referred to at the start, a loyal and hardcore fan base. And because of this, some people just have their blinders on. Opinions talking about the game and package as a whole are often ignored. You're right, I completely agree with you. The combat is amazing. The work that has been put into making the physics and weapon experience is unparalleled, and I can praise the devs all day for that. But that doesn't mean that simple things like bad UI or copy and pasted game modes can just be ignored. Now, is it enough to make me give it a bad review? No, not at all. It's not really a massive deal. The game is a work in progress, and you can tell that the devs aren't focused at all on how it looks, just how it plays. But just because it isn't a massive deal doesn't mean that it shouldn't be brought up as a genuine criticism. But negatives aside, Hellish Quart is a fantastic look into a realistic 17th century world, a time period and playstyle neglected by pretty much everyone else in the gaming industry, and they've refined it to complete perfection. As an overall game package, it's okay at the moment, but as a focus simulator experience, it's amazing, and I would recommend it to anyone that's even slightly interested in history and always complains that no other game is realistic enough, because you ain't going to be saying that here. So with the recent updates and what we've been shown in the future, I couldn't be happier with the direction that Hellish Quart is going, and it looks like some more big changes are coming, but I guess only time will tell. So until then guys, I will see you in the next one.